Hi, my name is Dr. Ali. Welcome to Foreign MD, where we share stories and experiences of foreign trained medical graduates who were able to navigate the rigorous transition process at every level. These stories are meant to inspire and encourage you. Stay tuned. Welcome to another episode of Foreign MD. I'm excited to have you all today. And today I have with me Dr. Asemota. And thank you so much, Dr. Asemota, for accepting this invite. And we're glad to have you here. As you know, Foreign MD, what we do here is that we talk to foreign medical doctors who were able to successfully transition from the country they trained to another country. And we talk about their experiences and we share their journey with them. So we're glad to have you here today. Could you briefly introduce yourself?
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Uyi Asemota. I am from Benin City in Nigeria, and I was born and raised there, and I went to the University of Benin Medical School. That's where I trained, and eventually successfully transitioned to a medical practice and residency in the United States.
Awesome. So where are you currently practicing now? And what specialty are you?
I am practicing internal medicine. I'm a primary care doctor in Paris, Texas.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Awesome. When you said Paris out. Okay, good to clarify that. Yes. So internal medicine, was that your initial specialty or did anything change with that?
Well, thankfully, I'm one of the lucky ones to have successfully remained in the specialty that they always wanted to practice in. Right from very early on in medical school, from my first clinical rotation in internal medicine, I always knew that that was what I was going to do. And everybody who was close to me knew that it was going to be internal medicine. And if you knew me really well, you knew it was going to be nephrology. So that was always the goal.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I was able to do that both in Nigeria, because I also had an internal medicine residency training there, as well as here in the US. So I'm thankful that, I stayed in my desired specialty.
Okay, awesome. So you said you did some training in Nigeria. So at what point in time did you decide that, okay, I want to move to a different country? Like I want to start this process again and go through being certified and practice somewhere else. What did that look like for you?
That's a very good question, because there is not a simple answer to that question, because for me, it was in stages. As a young kid, I just had that, lofty, fancy idea of, one day I would move to the United States. Like most people, dreamed.
Yeah.
But once I got into medicine, I started to have stronger feelings about that.
Okay.
And I dabbled with the preparatory materials once I was done with medical school, but it kind of didn't materialize at the time, and the young me just eventually went into internal medicine residency training in Nigeria.
Okay.
But I came to the US on vacation in 2013.
Okay.
This was in the middle of residency. I just become a senior registrar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I came to, have a nice vacation. I came to the US and I went to a hospital, and, that dream that I'd always had of excellent practice.
Yeah.
Wanted to be, amongst the best. I wanted to be, I didn't want to be reading about what was being done. I wanted to be in the middle of action.
Yeah.
I went to a hospital and I did a tour in that vacation, and that was the catalyst.
That was the moment.
And right from the hospital, I went to Barnes and Noble and bought all the USMLE Step 1 preparatory books. And I started the process, and that definitely was the rate limiting steps.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yeah. As soon as I did that hospital tour, I knew that, oh yes, this
This
would
is
be
where you're meant to be. Yeah.
exactly. And so I started preparing, and that was another journey.
Okay. Okay. So at this time, so you were, so you said you were a senior registrar at that time you started the journey. So how long were you out of medical school?
At that time, I was 5 years out of medical school.
Okay, okay. So you're a senior registrar, and then so how did that look like when you told your colleagues that hey, I think this is where I am right now? Because like I said, you had already got into that step career wise that folks would be like, hey, there's no need to make this transition. Why don't you just finish here?
Exactly. Exactly. And my initial stimulus was not to tell anybody because I knew I would get the "you are crazy" reaction, which I got a lot of times. It was crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, those were literally the words that some people told me, like in a joking manner, not
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
and some other people would not just understand, so there was no point like mentioning. But over time, I couldn't hide it because they would see me
Yeah,
in the library in the hospital reading materials that's not related to residency, that were like
yeah,
medical school pre-med stuff,
yeah.
preclinical stuff. And people began to like realize that okay, I was serious about this. And I remember people said, one of my friends in particular told me, "Don't you think you are too old
Oh
to be
wow.
studying for this now, right
Oh
now?"
wow.
And another person told me, you know you are crazy, right?" But I just because um, it was something that was very important to me, and there was no going back once I made up my mind that that was what I wanted to do. Um, so some of the other reactions I would get would be like, I wish I had the energy and the drive,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
to do what you're doing, because honestly, it was not easy,
yeah,
doing being a resident doctor
yeah,
at the time,
yeah.
and then went back to read physiology and anatomy,
Biochemistry.
histology,
Yes.
and combining that with your shifts with being on
Yeah,
call.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it was tough, but I had to find ways to like carve out 5, 6 hours on a regular work day, even if I was on call to study. So it
Oh
was,
wow. So you were doing like 5, 6 hours even during that time.
yes.
Oh wow. So you started the preparation. So how did that go for you? Did you end up taking finishing your boards before you came here? Or tell me, just kind of take me what the process of writing your exams was for you.
Yeah, so I was kind of doing both at the same time because thankfully by the time I started preparing for the US MLEs, I had already passed the um, first step to becoming a specialist in internal medicine in Nigeria, to just become
Okay.
a senior registrar. So one exam was out of the way. The
Okay.
next exam would be in like 2.5 years
Okay. Okay.
from when I first passed the first exam. So between that time, I started studying for and taking the exams
Okay.
the USMLEs. So I studied for step one for like a year because, like I said, I was working at the same time as a resident doctor. And I also had to study for my internal medicine and subspecialty exam.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was, so it took like a year for me to just completely study for step one and then eventually take step one. And I took step two in quick succession.
Yeah.
Um, so all my exams were done by the time, all my USMLEs were done by the time I was graduating, by the time I passed the next exam for my internal medicine residency training in Nigeria.
Okay. So
So
this
this was in a time span of 3.5 years.
3.5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So you're done with the boards, and then at that time you were still in Nigeria, finishing
Yes.
your exams. Okay. So what did the application process kind of look like for you at that time?
It was daunting. It was
Okay.
very challenging because I will be honest with you, I didn't have fantastic scores
Okay.
on my USMLEs. um, they were not the most competitive scores, so I did have challenges, applying.
Yeah.
I remember my first residency application
Yeah.
eras. I applied to at least 200 programs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think it was about $5,000 or so for the cost of the entire application.
Yeah.
And
It is
I,
expensive.
yeah, and I got one interview.
Oh,
Obviously, I
wow.
did not match.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So what did that feel like for you? How did you bounce back from that?
Um, it was devastating.
Yeah.
Um, that, applying to 200 programs, reaching out to people, all that time and money spent, because it was not just time and money spent on the exams, it was also coming here when I was
Yeah.
on vacation to do observerships, just to gain US clinical experience, because being out of medical school for more than 5 years was, it's a red flag for
Yes.
anybody applying for residency. So
Yeah.
I was trying to improve my chances. And so after that first time when I didn't match, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it wasn't as bad as the second time because I still had a job in Nigeria. I was still in
Yeah.
resident training.
Yeah.
So I could go back and, still be a resident doctor in Nigeria,
Yeah.
before I took, the final exam to become an attending in Nigeria, or a
Yeah.
consultant, I call it. And so that didn't break my heart so much as the second time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
applied again the second time,
Yeah.
the
So the
following
second time,
year.
yes. The next year, I
Yeah.
applied again, this time to less programs because I was, a bit more sensible in my application this time, because
Yeah.
and by this time I had known that certain programs would not even look at my application.
Yeah. Not IMG
Fact that,
friendly.
I am an IMG.
Yeah.
I was maybe like 7 years or 8 years post graduation at the time.
Yeah.
Uh, I was not a US citizen. I didn't have a green card. They were not going to
Yeah.
sponsor. So there were certain programs that, I didn't even bother to apply.
Okay.
Programs I realized that they were not IMG friendly. So I
Yeah.
applied, maybe I think 150 programs the second time.
Okay.
And then I reached out to more people, tried to make more contacts and connections. And this time I had 5 interviews.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I was very optimistic this time
Optimistic.
because my
Yeah.
interviews went very well. I interviewed some people that had very similar trajectories in medical field as
Yeah.
I have or
Yeah.
had at the time. So I was very optimistic, with the quality of the interviews that I had, because I was better prepared this time for my interviews.
Yeah.
And I would say with the opportunities to meet certain people that I felt like we connected
Yeah.
based similar stories, I was very optimistic second time.
Yeah.
The older match day,
Yeah.
we didn't match again.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That was when it felt like my world came crashing, because this was a dream that, meant everything to me.
Yeah.
I suspended my life,
Oh, wow.
basically,
So
because
at that time, had you stopped working in Nigeria by the
I
time?
had just I had just finished residency training. I had just passed the second exam to become
Yeah.
an attending, and I came here because it was interview season. The exams were
Yeah.
taken in October in Nigeria. I
Yeah.
had just passed, and I came here the next month for interviews.
Oh, wow.
So it was, just the right time for me to go into something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by March of
Yeah.
2018, and it was match day, and I got
Yeah.
that awful email the second
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
And
I know the feeling all too well.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's when I felt like my world came crashing down, because
Mhm.
this was because I had already become, a qualified internist in
Yeah.
Nigeria.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was looking for something more. This is not a
Yeah.
disparage, the experience and training we have in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But it was it didn't offer me all that I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, everybody, I mean, the reason why US residency is so competitive is because of the quality
Yeah.
of the rest of medical practice in Nigeria.
Training. Yeah.
And the kind of person I am, I don't know something unless I do it. So
Yeah.
I could read all the latest edition
The
of Harry.
abstract.
which we had to do anyway for preparing for our exams in Nigeria. Harrison's is the
Gold standard.
where they on my in my shelf. It's the Bible for internal medicine. It's the
Yes.
effort. So I could read all that stuff, but if I wasn't actually doing it, it didn't really stay with me. That's the kind of person I am. But
Yeah.
once I do one thing, I think once or twice, and it's no longer something I used to read in the book. So that's one of the motivations I had for coming here because I will I it was the opportunity to do things that I read about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So and I really, really, really wanted to do that. I was not going to be fulfilled if I
Yeah.
had, remained, practicing in Nigeria. So that's why I felt like, my world came crashing down on me on March day 2018
Oh wow.
when I did not march.
So
So
now you are, you've devoted so much of your time. So we're looking at, you say you started this process in 2013, this is 2018, so this is 5 years, and then it's like it's kind of gone from your grasp, like
yeah.
that dream. So what was the next step? What did you think of doing at that time?
Uh, so at that time I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll fly again next year, but I felt like, my chances are going to be way slimmer. Like I felt like this was my best opportunity. That
Yeah.
second time
Yeah.
around was the best opportunity. And then someone, thankfully, a friend of mine and a classmate from Nigeria who was already here practicing told me that because of my unique position,
Yeah.
where I had just completed residency in Nigeria and I had been certified,
Yeah.
I had the certificate to prove it and all the exams I had passed, that I'd completed internal medicine residency in Nigeria, that I could apply to some fellowships.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, some subspecialties in internal medicine, which is
Okay.
which is what we call fellowships here.
Yeah.
So my initial reaction was, how is it possible that you don't match into
Yes. And
and
then you get into a fellowship.
and get accepted to a fellowship position? He was like, yes, it's possible because you already have done internal medicine training. You
Yeah.
could come as an international scholar to come train in a subspecialty position, and then you could go back with that knowledge or training, or you could stay and apply again for
Yeah.
residence.
Yeah.
So at that point, my attitude was like, you know what? I don't ever want it to be said that I never did all that I
True.
could do, to achieve, that dream that, meant so
Yeah.
much to me. So I said, okay, I'll give it a try. Let me try. This was now out of cycle application. So
Yeah.
class was already closed.
Oh
So
wow.
I couldn't apply for fellowships through errors. I had to now write individually. I went to a website, I think it's called Frida, to
Yeah.
find um programs.
Unmatched.
Yeah, they were unmatched.
Yeah.
And thankfully, most of those programs were in nephrology, which was my interest in,
Okay.
from medical school in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So I started to write individually to all those programs,
Yeah.
to tell them that I was interested in doing a nephrology fellowship. I'm already trained, and many of them would instantly reply and say, we only accept ACGME accredited internal medicine training, which is
Yeah.
perfectly understandable to me.
Yeah.
A few of them asked me to send my qualifications, my credentials, and that's the last I ever heard from them. After sending my credentials, I never heard anything from them.
Yeah.
One or two gave me a second look, and
Okay.
then one of those programs was Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn.
Okay.
They looked at my credentials and said, we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Because they were entertaining the idea of, hiring someone else at the time.
Yeah.
They got back to me about a month after I first contacted them, and they wanted more evidence to
Yeah.
show that I had actually gone through residency training in Nigeria. So I had to send all the certificates, letters from my hospital where I did residency. And once they were satisfied that I had truly done residency in Nigeria, then I was scheduled for an interview.
Okay.
Uh, lo and behold, I got accepted to the program.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that's how I eventually got into medical practice in the US. I got
Oh
up some
wow.
nephrology fellowships first.
That's a quite a unique journey. Awesome.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, one of the persons I've heard that took that pathway.
Yes, it is
Oh,
possible. Yeah.
oh
Yes.
wow. Awesome. Awesome. So how many years was this fellowship wise?
So the fellowship training is 2 years. So
Okay.
I did the training for 2 years. Um, it wasn't easy because in the middle of the fellowship training was the pandemic.
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of people, I mean, in the news and all over the media, it was all about respirators, ventilators,
Yes.
people dying from respiratory distress.
Yes.
Almost about the same number of people were requiring dialysis
Oh wow.
at the
Oh
time.
wow.
So it was very stressful for any, nephrology practice, whether it was private practice or whether it was a fellowship training or whether it was, an academic
Yeah.
institution, very demanding. So those 2 years were very challenging, but they were also
Yeah.
very rewarding, and I won't trade it for anything.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So I feel like it was God's divine intervention because I think that was really the best program for me to train.
Oh
I don't
wow.
think it got any better anywhere else. I
That's
had
awesome.
fantastic, fantastic team. I had
Yeah.
fantastic program leadership,
Yeah.
and um grateful to till this day.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I
not
think
just
that is so important. Most people don't realize what it is having a when you get into a program that has a good team that supports you, like,
oh my goodness.
because it's very easy for them to, you come in and they look down on you saying, hey, you didn't train here, you're not. But I mean, it
Exactly.
doesn't sound like that was your experience at all.
No, not at all. That's why I'm saying that I think that was a program that was meant for me, and
Yeah.
I'm still thankful to God today and to those people, for taking a chance on me
Yeah.
and for being patient because this is me coming from paper charting in
Yeah.
Nigeria.
Yeah. Yeah. EMR. Yeah.
So
Every IFG's
like for baby
nightmare.
steps,
Yes.
and you're not going straight into residency. You are going as a fellow where, you know, you
Yeah.
resident think that, oh, he's already done with
Yes.
residency. He already, knows how things
So
work.
you are calling the shots this time, not
Exactly.
not that you
And
have been instructed
I
on
had no
how to.
idea about
Yes.
how things are done in the US. So
Yes.
I've had very patient attendings and program leadership who were, not judgmental, not
Yes.
pushing, just patient and teaching me and also had fantastic team of dialysis nurses that,
Yeah.
were teaching me and showing
Yeah.
me the ropes. So
Yeah.
I'm really, really grateful that, I had a soft landing.
That's awesome. I'm happy about that too,
Yeah,
because a rough landing, ooh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah.
So people get depressed because of,
Yeah,
just the
yeah, yeah.
environment in which they work. Yeah. So
Absolutely. So awesome. So we did 2 years, and then from then, I guess, then now you have some
yeah, now I have
additional
some exactly.
on your application.
I have something on my CV. I have
Yes.
US clinical experience for 2 years.
Yes.
I now know people in the hospital that,
Yes.
I've been working and training at for 2 years.
Yes.
So by the time I applied for residency again, I also got, I think, 5 or 6 interviews this time, including
Yeah.
this place where I was doing my nephrology fellowship.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's where I eventually matched to residency. So
So
I'm grateful, not only for my nephrology fellowship program leadership, but also the internal medicine program leadership till this day. I am very grateful.
was it awkward for you from transition moving from that fellowship, then you go back to being a resident? Or was it how did that transition work?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Let me start with the no. No, in the sense that I didn't have a chip on my shoulders that, I'm PGY3, even though
Yeah. Yeah.
because I knew that I had a lot to learn. Because number
Yeah.
one, practice in Nigeria is very different from practice
Yeah.
in the style of testing is
Yeah.
completely different. These were things that I didn't know that I wish I knew. If someone
Yeah.
had told me these are the things you should read and practice before you even go into residency, nobody told me that. So,
Yeah.
but I knew that I would even do that. Even though I had trained in Nigerian internal medicine, I knew it was going to be completely, well, not completely different, but very different,
Yeah.
from the experience that I had. So I went in, with that mindset. But it was also hard or weird in the sense that people expected a lot from me. Like
True.
he's already done 2 years at Nepology Fellowship. Oh, he's got it. Let's you know. Yeah. But I didn't, know how to do an arterial line, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's not something you do in fellowship, and it's not something I ever did when I was in Nigeria. So,
Yeah.
so even people expected so much from you, but I needed so much out of, the system, out of being an intern. I still
Yeah.
had a lot to learn. So it was awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I think the fact that you had a wonderful team behind you, who knew you pretty much
Yes.
must have been very instrumental in making that transition smoother for you.
Yes.
So I'm absolutely glad about that. Um, now, what do you think? What do you wish you had known before you started this residency journey that you think may have made it a bit easier for you?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And for anybody listening, please listen to this answer, especially if you are going to internal medicine, if you want to go into internal medicine and you're an
Yeah.
IMG, and even if you think you've done internal medicine residency, wherever you're coming from, if someone had told me, go study the materials that, the residents study for when in order to prepare for their boards,
Yeah.
especially if you don't have fantastic scores, because if you were scoring like 260
Yeah.
in USMLEs, then you only need to brush up a few things
Yeah. Yeah.
in terms of your knowledge base to prepare for the boards. But if that's not your story, then you should be studying your mix-up questions before the exam, because even before you become a senior, before you become a second year or third year,
Yeah.
you're going to have these questions thrown to you during rounds. And I mean, nobody's going to put pressure on you, depending on the kind of program where you're at. If as an intern, you don't know so much.
Yeah.
By the
Yeah.
time you become a second year, as soon as the day you become second year, you're a senior, now you have interns that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
Now you have to have knowledge. So
Yeah.
if you haven't been prepared for that before that time, then um, you're going to have a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Which in
uh,
residency is hard to keep
exactly.
up, hard to
Especially,
catch up. Yeah.
especially if you work in a busy program in New York, like I did. By the time you get home, I mean, you're done. You just eat and sleep, and then
Yeah.
start the next day.
Yeah.
So if someone had told me to start studying the materials, that just start practicing questions,
Yeah.
so that, the knowledge that's expected of you, you start
You're able to
acquiring
deliver. Yeah.
well ahead of time, so that when it's even time to take your boards, you're not scared. You're
Yeah.
ready. But besides just taking exams, it's being functional as a senior resident on the floor.
Yeah.
You need that knowledge. So if someone had told me, start studying the material from the day, even before you match. Maybe that's too much, but from the day you match,
Yeah.
start studying. It's 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of time to cover enough ground. Start studying that material. Just start doing questions. Just start practicing questions so that you come prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
You come prepared.
And
Yeah.
I think that's what you said is very important because and I can give this around background too. You match and then you just yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't. I can personally say I also did not know enough to get ready before the residency program,
Yeah.
like what it took. Those 3 months of waiting, they could
Yeah.
be very instrumental in determining your trajectory once you go into residency. So
Yeah.
pretty much very important. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and so now you're out of fact, you're out, you've done residency, you've started. Now, why primary care?
That's a good question. Thank you very much for that question. Um, it's multiple factors. Um, First, I like, the continuity of relationship that you build with
Yeah,
your patients in primary care, because it's not one time thing like you have in the hospital.
yeah,
You actually build a relationship with these people. They come to trust you.
yeah,
I actually once told a friend of mine that being a primary care doctor is like being a quasi priest. Yeah, what do I mean by that? You get so close to people that they start
yeah,
feeling you, you know, personal stuff that actually impact their health.
Yeah, yeah,
Because medical heart failure is not just, straightforward,
yeah,
uh, about, adrenergic activity and
yeah,
exercise, all of that. There's other things that, impact our health in different ways.
yeah,
If patients have a doctor that they trust, that they know has their best intentions at heart, that psychological and emotional support really, 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 really makes a difference in healthcare.
yeah,
And there's a huge need for that.
yeah,
And it seems to be not realized or downplayed.
yeah,
But I do enjoy being in that role of,
yeah,
again, another thing that, drew me to internal medicine and primary care is that I tend to um, be drawn
yeah,
to suffering. So
yeah,
if people are suffering, I want to I want to do my best to end it.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Um and I think that primary care is the best place for that because
yeah,
you don't just see them once, you continue to see them
yeah,
forever. Yeah, until whatever
yeah,
changes. The other factors that played into me, choosing primary care uh was the fact that it's been a long journey
yeah,
since medical school at this point. Right now, I'm, after all this training, residency training in Nigeria, fellowship in the US, residency again. At this point, I'm like, I need to rest.
gotta make some money too.
It's enough. I want my weekends. I
Yeah,
want my holidays. You
yeah,
know, I don't want to work at nights.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want to be on call.
yeah,
Once I'm done for the day, I'm done.
yeah,
Um, none of all that extra stuff. I don't want insidious, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
no, none of all that. So,
That's awesome.
but that just tied in, everything just worked together so well. I have no like second thoughts about, being in primary care. It's for me. It's the
That's
best.
awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad you found that. But I'm primary care, so I can totally relate. I'm not a marriage counselor, but at this point in time, I think I have a certificate in marriage counseling.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So looking back at it, would you say where you are now, you look back, would you say that everything you went through was worth it?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I would not well, I can't say I would not change anything about it because if I could make the journey shorter, I would
Yeah,
love to.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But in terms of the process, I won't change anything. Um, I'm very grateful for where I am today. I truly am. Whenever I talk to people, it comes up all the time. I'm like, I'm I'm not just fortunate. I think I'm blessed
that's
to be
awesome.
where I am today because there are so many people who are smarter than I am and who have worked harder than I am.
Yeah,
Just didn't have the same circumstances,
yeah,
to be where I am today. So not only is I that does not mean I that I don't acknowledge the hard work that
yeah,
put me being where I am today because it was a lot of work.
yeah, yeah.
Um, me getting max 4 hours of sleep every day for 3 years
Oh
to the
wow.
point where now my biological clock wakes me up at 4 a.m. regardless because all those years 3 years straight when I was setting my alarms to wake me up at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Oh
I
wow.
could not revert back
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
at 7 o'clock anymore. So, um,
Make sure you see a primary care doctor for insomnia.
well, that's a topic for another day. Not really can help me because I've just accepted where I am.
Yes.
That's just the price that I've had to pay for where. But like, to answer your question, it is worth it.
Awesome.
I feel very fulfilled and satisfied, in my role and very where I'm, working. I'm also very happy to be here. I think it's also the best place that I could, practice because it's just been very smooth,
Yeah.
very kind. It's been really easy to settle in.
Awesome.
My
Awesome.
girlfriend lives here, so it's
It's
God
a
has been
dream.
kind to me.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. So, before we round up, I just wanted to, can you leave one tip, just one tip you wish someone had told you before you started this process? Just one tip for an IMG listening today.
Oh, okay. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
One tip that if someone had really drilled it into my head before I started this process would be ask all the right questions, get all the materials you need to study for the USMLEs,
Yeah.
because scores are what open the doors for
Yeah.
interviews.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you don't have very high scores that you won't get interviews,
Yeah.
but there are places that you won't even need to talk to anybody, but your scores alone would open doors for interviews
Yeah.
for you. Because you realize that, when you get into residency, the people who score 260, they're not so far better than you. They just prepared better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They just
True.
prepared better. So, if someone had really not just told me, but like showed me, like, because I have someone in my class in residency who had done mix up twice
Oh
before
wow.
they started rest. Mix up is what you study for American Board of Internal
Yeah.
Medicine exams. He had
Yeah.
done it twice before he started residency. So obviously his scores were 260s.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah.
wow. Oh wow.
So it's not, but we just, watch the Kaplan videos and read
Yes.
some books and I did first aid and hope for the best.
That's kind of what we did. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for that tip. So, if anyone wanted to reach out to you just to ask any more questions, are you okay giving us your email, or how can they contact you?
Yes, that's perfectly fine. I can give my email address and they can mail me and I will get back, as soon as I can because one thing I always remember is people help me on the way
Yeah.
to where today. And the least I can do is to give back. And I have been trying to do that every year since I got in. So my email address is uyimed2000
Okay.
so
Thank you so much. I appreciate
talk
it.
to me. Yeah.
I appreciate it. And hopefully the goal, like I said, is to create a community that would at least help others coming up, so that their journey is easier. And, soon to be, there'll be a Facebook group at this point in time, but, taking baby steps to get there. Yeah.
Mm.
But thank you so much, Dr. Asemota. We appreciate your story and your journey. And I know that someone listening to it would get tremendous value from it, and hopefully to inspire them to just continue to persist if they were at the verge of quitting. So we appreciate your contribution, and maybe someday we'll probably have you back. I know you probably still have a lot more stories to tell.
That's what I do.
But thank you so much. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please share, like, and subscribe to encourage a fellow physician who is also on this transition journey.